Hi, welcome to Box on the Box Rock and Celluloid, Botprop for short. I'm Edward Box. So today I'm going to rank from 25 to number 1 the musical scores of all the Eon James Bond films. Not doing Never Say Never Again or Casino Royale because they ain't proper. So starting off, obviously the music of James Bond films is really important to the sound and style of the films, and I feel like the musical scores, certainly in the early days, lifted the films out of their B-movie sort of origins, really, their pulp origins, to make themselves something more grandiose and epic. And there's times in films when, if things are found a bit wanting, action or drama-wise, the music can really elevate them, and obviously is where the work of the great John Barry comes in. But my number 25 choice is Doctor No, actually the first film. And John Barry's only contribution to this was the arrangement of the James Bond theme. Now, there's a controversy around that, which we'll come to, but Monty Norman was the composer of this. I don't know much about him. I looked him up. He did a few film scores, and he did a musical for the West End stage, which I think was a flop, called A House for Mr. Biswas. And he had a theme in that. Dun 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 dun. If you go online, you'll find Monty Norman singing the stupid lyrics to it. I'm not going to do it. But he adapted this into the James Bond main theme. Now, what we don't know is what his original main theme was going to sound like, or what his orchestration was like. Did he do an orchestration, or did he do the score first and then did Brooklyn Saltzman decide, oh, look, we need a better composer, we need this guy's theme to be better, let's get someone to arrange Monty's score? We don't know. The controversy is that John Barry sued Monty Norman for half the publishing, half the credit for the James Bond theme, because that's what he heard all the time. But he lost in the court of law in the High Court in England. This is the thing, Monty Norman's the writer of it. Doing the arrangement's a different thing. We can't know what John Barry did. Did he add extra melody notes in? Did he change this? Did he change that? I don't know. But obviously it's a great piece of music, but to this day John Barry's estate has never received a penny in the publishing. I suspect it's made Monty Norman a very wealthy man. But back to his score, it's just really standard 50s B-movie British film suspense music. It's quite jarring, actually. There'll be bits in it where it's going there's kind of strings climbing. It's not very lush. It doesn't feel expensive, and what it does is it undercuts the attempt of Doctor No to look expensive. It shows like the cracks in it. Doctor No, looks expensive with Ken Adams sets. It looks expensive with locations. But when you've got Sean Connery driving along his back projection, or a car sets on fire, that B-movie aspect comes through. Now, if John Barry had scored this, it could have, that paper under the cracks, he would have elevated it. So that's why this is my number 25 choice. It's always going to be the 25 choice, because there's no template for the Bond scores at this point. Every composer who comes after, if they're not John Barry, will have to kind of make nods to the Barry sound. It's unavoidable. And the ones who do the better scores are the ones who do that most successfully, but keep their own individuality. Number 24 choice is For Your Eyes Only. So this is by Bill Conti. Bill Conti's a great film composer. Obviously, he did the theme to Rocky. He's Grammy-winning. I think he's Oscar-winning. He's kind of uses bigger brass. He's kind of a bit more pop and rock. In this, he kind of falls into a kind of dodgy sort of sub-pop disco, not sub-pop genre or label, disco type thing. There is some nice themes, particularly when they're in Greece, but it's just not Bondish enough for me. The car chase sequence is particularly jarring. What is good is the theme to For Your Eyes Only. I think the song itself, he does a really good job with. I think Sheena Easton, although she's forgotten about now, does a really good vocal. And I've always liked the way she was using the credit sequence and the combination of Maurice Binder's images. I thought that was unique for the time, and I really like it. So Conti, unfortunately, is just a great film composer. It's not quite right. It's not Bondish enough, which brings me to GoldenEye. So Eric Serra, the French composer known for his work with Luc Besson. So at this time, apparently, they did ask Barry, and he asked for a huge fee, and I think they were wanting to keep the budget low on this. GoldenEye's budget is reported to be $48 million to $60 million. Now that sounds like a lot, and it would be over $100 million now, but it wasn't that much back then. They were basically hedging their bets. So I suspect they went for a cheaper composer. Eric Serra had done really well with Luc Besson's Leon, and he scored for those films. They wanted to do a modern take on the Bond sound. And he did some really interesting stuff, like at the start with the percussion, dun 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 dun, and so on. And there is, in the sort of more melancholic, romantic moments, and like when Isabella Scorupco's characters are leaving the blown up Serenade base, his themes are really good. Where he comes unglued is into the action scenes. The car chase sequence is terrible. He manages to kind of out-disco and out-funk Bill Conti. And the upshot was that when they watched the score and watched the film, I think Martin Campbell and the producer were like, look, this just isn't Bondish enough, and they hired a guy, was it John Powell or John somebody else, but he does the scoring for the tank chase, and although he does a good job, it's not great, but it just feels more Bondish. And I think Campbell was reported to say, well, this guy apparently scored it in a matter of days and recorded it. He said, I should have just got him to redo the whole thing. So, and that's one of the things with GoldenEye. It's a fantastic Bond film, but the music is just the one thing. It's the one thing, and aside from a few dodgy effect shots, that lets it down. We can only imagine if David Arnold could have done it. Next choice is number 22, License to Kill. This is Michael Kamen. So Michael Kamen's a great action scorer for films like Lethal Weapon, although I hate his use of sax, and he does the fantastic string arrangements for Queensryche as well. The problem with this is it just feels too like a generic 80s action film. It's got too much like Lethal Weapon sound. He uses Bondian themes and Bondian ideas, but it kind of gets undercut with that sound he has. And one of the issues with this film, the criticism was that it was too much like the generic action tropes of 80s action cinema, and what it needed was a proper Bond score by John Barry to enhance and make it more Bondish. I really like the film. I've got a lot of affection for it, but the score again is something that undercuts it. I don't think it was picked up on at the time. Having said that, he does a great job with Narada Michael Walden, but possibly maybe Ken does the strings. I do like the theme song License to Kill, nice nod to Goldfinger, a very contemporary R&B track, but not a great score. My next one is probably a score I used to really like, but as I go back to it, I see the kind of flaws in it. It uses Bond sounds really well, but it's just a bit too funky and a bit dodgy in place, and it's George Martin's score for Live and Let Die. I've got to confess, when I was younger, I always thought John Barry did this because it had enough Barry-esqueness about it. Really good, the main theme, Live and Let Die, great on the speedboat chase as well. But sometimes it lacks that lushness. It can feel like a score for a 70s cop film. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. I do think it's a good score. Martin does something interesting, and it probably works for quite a lot of the film. It just lacks that little bit of depth. Next choice is the first David Arnold choice here. It's Quantum of Solace. This score's decent. The problem is when you listen to it, I think one of the things with a Bond film, you need a good film to go with the score. Sometimes the score's kind of better than the film. We'll come to that. But when I was listening to this, I was just like seeing what was going on in my head in the film. And I was just like, it's just not elevating. There's massive problems with this film. It's my least favourite Bond film of all time. The score, Donald does a decent job, but can't salvage the narrative, lack of narrative thrust. There's just not enough to undercut there. So surprisingly, I'd maybe put this at 18 actually. I'm going to put it at 19 still, and it's Die Another Day. And now here's an example where the score, when I was listening to it, actually is better than the film. That's not hard. Die Another Day is my second least fave Bond film. But I think Arnold does a lot of good things with this. There's some really good themes, particularly in the climax and when Icarus opens, the romantic theme at the end with Halle Berry, when he arrives in Cuba's a nice arrangement, and also when Halle Berry's coming out of the sea. Arnold's good at that. He is good at doing the romantic, quiet moments. It's the more bombastic moments where I think he comes unglued, and I think that happens on the Tomorrow Never Dies soundtrack, which is my number 18 choice. So this was an attempt to get back to the classic James Bond sound at the time. And I do like it, and I like what Arnold does, but sometimes there's a lack of quality themes, which aren't entirely his fault, but Sometimes in the big action scenes, there's a lot of bombast. Now, John Barry had bombast, but he'd always have those cool melodies in there. And sometimes I'm looking for like a tune in there. And that's really what undercuts the Arnold score to me there. But the other problem is you get themes like ba 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 ba, which is of course the K.D. Lang theme that wasn't used. So he's put that theme into the film, quite rightly so. I think it's going to be used, and then they put in Sheryl Crow. They should have stuck with the K.D. Lang theme. It's a much better song, although it does have shite Don Black lyrics. Number 17 choice is the first appearance by Thomas Newman on Spectre. This is the second film he did with Sam Mendes. And again, I think Newman's a fantastic composer, and he does some really great work on this. He's more melodic in his bombastic action scenes than Arnold is. I think the main issue is here, again, my problems with the film, it just kind of feels on listening to the score, particularly climax, I'm like, oh, very good when they arrive in the desert, that whole scene, that's got great music. He's very good at the atmosphere. I think it's worth pointing out, David Arnold, he's a fine film composer, but if you take Bond out of the equation, his filmography is not great. Independence Day aside and Stargate, you got some pretty dodgy films. He's been Grammy nominated, but you compare him to Thomas Newman or Bill Conti. Thomas Newman, I mean, he's one of the great modern film composers. His American Beauty score alone, that famous cue, would put him in the all-time list, and then the Shawshank, Green Mile, and so on. He's a great composer. So that's the difference there. Okay, now I have to be careful not to muddle myself up because I had a change around on my list. So, number 16, The World Is Not Enough. Now, I think this is Arnold's first, after Tunnel Marrow Dies, I think it's a considerable improvement. I think a great cue on this is when Bond is driving into, I think it's Azerbaijan, he's into the oil fields in the Caspian Sea, and the theme, da-da-da, kicks in, but he's got some lovely ethnic world music sounds from that region there. There's really good sort of romantic themes to do Electra on this when Brosnan's at the computer and so on. It's still got that bombast problem, but I think the action scoring is better, and his his sense of melody and romantic sweep is really good on this. Again, I think the film's one of the weaker ones, but I think his music does the John Barry job of elevating some of the weaker scenes. So that's my number 16. Of course, he gets to use the garbage theme in it. So my next choice is The Spy Who Loved Me. Now, I was tempted to put this higher because I really like what Marvin Hamlish does. Again, Marvin Hamlish, a great film composer, won Oscar for The Way We Were. So that thing, a notch up from someone like an Arnold. And this does suffer a bit from, it's the disco era, but I kind of like that. One of the good things on this, he really embraces the Bond theme in a really cool way. And you've got that funky kind of disco action sequence when Roger's skiing at the start. The arrangement for the Nobody Does It Better theme in the middle of the film with Anya, Barbara Bach's character, it's just beautiful. And of course, Nobody Does It Better is one of the all-time great Bond films. It's probably my second or third favourite. I think I can't remember when I put it on my list. But really good. A few issues it could do with being a little lush and a little less disco, but I like the spin that Marvin Hamlish does on this. So my number 13 choice is From Russia With Love. I've kind of put this up a bit higher. Listening to it today, it's Barry's... apologies. Number 14, A View to a Kill. Sorry, I'm looking at my numbers there. So A View to a Kill is an example of a really poor Bond film where John Barry's scoring elevates it, but I feel, particularly in the opening action sequence, he's trying to do a Majesty's Secret Service Part 2. It feels like he's a little out of ideas. The scores are not quite as memorable for this, and it's for me the weakest Barry score. And I think what undermines this is Barry's probably watching the film thinking Roger's too old, and this is pretty weak, and he just can't kind of get inspired in a way with someone like Secret Service, where there's this reboot thing, and you've got George Lazenby who needs help, which we'll come to. So A View to Kill, although the Jan 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 theme's really good. So my mistake before, number 30 is From Russia with Love. I put this above View to Kill. There's a lot of weak elements with this score because Barry's finding his feet, but this begins the Bond sound. This is the first John Barry score. It's the first score to have the proper James Bond sound. It's got the 007 theme. And it would be interesting if a modern composer did a take on that, because it's used quite a lot in the 60s. But this is good. It's some great, again, using music ideas of the region that Bond's in. Really good at that, Barry. And it's, I think, probably where it's not quite as top is its lushness. You can see he's kind of bigger budget, probably bigger orchestra for those later films, and everything just gets lusher. But this is really important because this is the original proper Bond score. Okay, so now we're on to number 12. My number 12 choice is David Arnold's best score, in my opinion, which is Casino Royale. No surprise there. Really good theme with Chris Cornell. He gets to use that theme in the film, which works really well. Great in the opening sequence. His romantic themes for Vesper are superb. And the intensity of the Miami sequence, you know, he does a lot of heavy scoring there. Again, there's still that thing where his bombast is good, but it lacks a bit of melody at times. But obviously, you know, it'd be a shame, Casino Royale's such a top film, if the score didn't do it justice, and Arnold did a really good job with this. But just pipping it at number 11 is Thomas Newman's score for Skyfall. I had to listen to this and I was like, at first I was like, oh, it's quite kind of subdued, this, but the start of Skyfall is all about atmosphere and mystery. And then it really starts to pick up when he goes to Macau, and when he gets the boat to the deserted island to meet the Javier Bardem character. That's beautiful scoring. And then as it goes through, you know, to this climax in Scotland, there's some great scoring when he's running along the moors, when he has the fight and falls in the lake, and the final scenes of them. Newman just, you know, what he does is absolutely superb. And I would say the score, I would mark it high, give it an 8 out of 10, mark it higher if the early parts were grabbing me a bit more. But it shows what a truly great film composer can do when they take the classic Bond tropes, but bring themselves into the mix. Really good. And my number 10 choice, just pipping it, I was very surprised by this, but when I listened to it, I was like, actually, fucking hell, this guy's nailed this, and it's a Hans Zimmer score for No Time to Die. So what Zimmer does is he follows the same path as Newman, but he does this heavy bombast. So he's got the melody in there, but this score is fucking intense. When I was listening to it, it's really powerful pounding, but always with good melodic context. His arrangement of the Bond theme for the gun barrel sequence is probably the best there's been for a while. That's a whole other thing in itself. I should say the GoldenEye one. When I went to see that film, the gun barrel started, I was like, ooh. Anyway, but Zimmer does a great job. Now, the thing is here, it's always that thing on how much is Zimmer written, because he's got his team that he kind of farms out to in his studio, or he probably hands out arranging duties to. So there may be some other talents in there who've helped with this, and he's taking the credit, but that's how it works. But what pleases me about this score is Hans Zimmer does a lot of scores, and it'd be easy for him to kind of fall into all the things, but he seems to really embraced it all. There's one bit where Bond goes Batman, but that was going to happen. That's why they've hired Zimmer, isn't it? There's always that thing, you know, how the Bond narrow then to Craig films has kind of dipped into Batman a bit. Okay, so that's my number 10 choice. So number 9, not his best score for Bond, but I've got to pick Barry over these guys, and it's Diamonds Are Forever. So some people don't like this film, they criticise it. I really like it. I really like the humour and the atmosphere, although the climax is weak. And Barry does fall back in using the 007 theme at the end, which is a bit lame. But it shows the power of Barry in this. He's got some great cues for like Mr. Winter, Mr. Kidd, for the fight at the start, when Bond's going up the side of the skyscraper, and so on. And it shows how his music can elevate things. You know, Las Vegas is a kitsch environment and not very Bondian, but, you know, Barry's brilliance kind of gets it and makes it Bondian. And he does the same with The Man with the Golden Gun, which, again, is a film I really like. This is my number 8 choice, where, you know, there's criticism of this film, the issues with it, But his score, he brings in the themes of the Far East. If you know your music theory, he just does a really clever thing for Sparrowmanga's Funhouse, where he literally just ascends a melodic minor scale. Ba, 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 ba. And it's just such a simple thing, but it's just so effective and builds tension. He just uses the natural tension in that scale. So that's really good. I love his arrangements of the main theme, The Man with the Golden Gun. Not the best Bond theme by any shot, but he uses that really well. My number 7 choice is a Barry. So this is one where after View to Kill, I thought he got a bit more inspired, although he fell out of Aha. It's The Living Daylights. So having Dalton come in inspired him, and there's a really good use of technology in this. He embraces technological sounds of the 80s, but not in a cheesy way. No, that's View to a Kill. Sorry. And he uses the themes a lot. Living Daylights. He's got the If There Was a Man theme. Chrissy Hynde sings and Where Has Everybody Gone? And these 3 song themes work into the whole narrative. And I think this is a really good score. It kind of places the Living Daylights firmly in its era, but it helps kind of bed in Dalton and helps his introduction as Bond along. So my next 6 choices are like what I'd call premium Bond. They're all John Barry. The first choice might surprise you because a lot of people, again, it's maybe not the best Moore film, but it's got an amazing score and it's Moonraker. So Moonraker has an amazing space theme score. If I've got a slight criticism of it, it's the same year he did The Black Hole. I can't work out whether he's used leftover stuff from The Black Hole for it sometimes, or vice versa. The Black Hole score is really good. But this has got some great themes when Bond's going into space. It's got great use of the Dorian mode, which is a mode Barry likes. That beautiful moment when Drax sets the dogs on his assistant, there's that really kind of haunting, melancholic theme as she's running through the woods. Brilliant. Probably lacks a romantic theme, that the Spy Love Me had. So now my number 5 choice, this is the one where this has just been rising. And then when I was listening to it recently, I was like, bloody hell, the guy just came in on 10 on this, and it's his score for Octopussy. This is a film that's really, reputation's slowly increasing. In spite of Roger being best dressed as a clown, in spite of Stephen Burkoff's over-the-top performance and some misplaced gags, Octopussy's actually a really good Cold War spy romp. But what elevates it is John Barry's score. He doesn't miss a beat with this. And I think the other thing is the All Time High is actually a really good song, but poorly delivered. I think the vocals by Rita Coolidge are a bit flat. It would be much better if someone like Dusty Springfield had done it. But that theme works really well in the film. You've got great suspense themes, great romance themes, great use of the different locations. It really is a top-notch score, and probably good because John Barry had a break. He didn't do the Files only, so this kicks in. But it just surprises me, listening to the quality of this score. It really does elevate the Octopussy experience. So my next 4 choices are all classic 60s ones. These are some of not just great James Bond scores, they're just great scores anyway. And my number 1 choice, I think, is one of the greatest film scores of all time. Number 4 is Thunderball. This shows Barry's genius. Thunderball's a bit slow. It's stodgy, and the underwater sequences slow it down. And they're not edited great, but John Barry scoring in these sequences does his best to keep things moving, to create mystery and suspense. Absolutely brilliant. He makes good use of the main theme. Just loads of atmosphere, really good, this score. Number 3 choice, You Only Live Twice. Again, his first space score with brilliant Space March theme. Beautiful themes for the Japan locations. Incredible title song, Nancy Sinatra, and that theme's used throughout the film. And one of the best uses of the 007 theme for the great fight on the rooftop with the overhead shot. Just a beautiful score. Perfect synergy here of Barry's scoring with the images, because in all truth, there's some problems with this film. Connery's bored. There's elements of repetition in this film, having the blonde henchman, having the bad girl, taking that from Thunderball. So this is an example again where Barry's scoring elevates it. My number 2 choice is Goldfinger. This just straight off the bat, you've got the great opening, you've got the incredible Goldfinger song, probably Barry's masterpiece for writing. Then you've got that brilliant Welcome to Miami theme in a 3/4 time with a lovely swing. Absolutely brilliant with that great overhead shot. What's brilliant about this film is the cues, the odd job cue. You know, just having like, I'm not sure what instruments they are and what is used as a ping, but it just pipes up and then odd job swings his hat. The amazing score with the, again, using that Dorian mode, building up when Connery's on the laser beam, probably my favourite, absolutely one of my favourite Barry moments. Just a brilliant score throughout, and obviously it's no surprise that this film's rated as so as the best of one of the very best Bond films. The score really does the trick. So my number one choice is On Her Majesty's Secret Service. This was always going to be number one. Basically, Barry comes in on this. You've got Lazenby, you've got Peter Hunt, you've got new people coming in. More than ever, he needs to knock out of the park because Lazenby's inexperienced. Bond needs to sound and feel Bondish more than ever. He starts it off with the great cues at the start, and then you've got the Majesty's Secret Service theme, the instrumental theme, which is just godlike, and then he's using the ski chases, amazing. But then you get that beautiful All the Time in the World, the official song of the film that's in the film, with the beautiful Louis Armstrong, one of the most beautiful songs ever written, regardless of being a James Bond film. And then one of my favourite sequences when he goes to hack, break into Gumball's safe with that brilliant music there. Just that sequence is quite slow, but his music creates all the suspense when they're going to Piz Gloria. They arrive there. It's just an incredible score. It's lush. It's dynamic. It's epic. You know, it makes that film seem huge, and I think it's a big part of why that film's a beloved cult film of a lot of fans, but also filmmakers like Christopher Nolan. Okay, that's my top 25 James Bond scores. Thank you for checking that out. Just under 27 minutes there. That's not bad. It's a minute. Just over a minute to score. Remember to share and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon.